Hello and welcome to The Luxury of Choice, a B2B sales skills and tips podcast brought to you by the training team of George James Limited. My name is Steve Vaughan. I'm a senior sales trainer at George James, and also I'm the host and producer of this podcast. And again, once more, I'm joined with my colleagues Pru and Jonathan Cooper. So Pru, Jonathan, it's been a while since we've done a podcast, so how are things? Pru, you go first, as you're actually here with me live next to me.
Oh, thank you, Steve.
And ladies first, of course, as well.
Things are good, thanks, Steve. It's I've been away. I managed to grab a week's holiday, which
where'd
is
you
maybe. We went to France.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So down to the Loire Valley, plenty of wine, too many chateaus.
Can you have too many chateaus?
I didn't think you could until I went, and now I think you can.
You probably can't have too much wine, but that's another conversation for another day. Jonathan, how are you? You've moved house since we last did the show.
Yes, I have, yeah. One thing you can have too many of is cardboard boxes. So,
no, I'm
yeah,
sure.
we've moved house, and quite an event. I can certainly recommend the name of a removal company not to use. But that's another story.
Don't mention it because I don't want to get sued, okay?
No, absolutely. But no, it was it's been a really good time business wise, and moving house always good. Interesting. So yeah, good. Thanks.
Yeah, we haven't done it for 15 years, and I'm in no rush to do it again. Actually,
no, I wouldn't.
So yeah, all good for me as well. We had a weekend away. We're up in North Wales actually with my family this weekend. A bit of a family get together. So the weather was amazing actually, but I'm sure that won't last. But anyway, so we're here again with another team podcast. We have the interview shows I've been doing recently, which have had some nice feedback. Thank you for everybody for the feedback on that. More to come. But today we're going to take a bit of a change of course. So up to now we've been talking about the sales process, sales skills. But what we thought would be a great topic to talk about, bear in mind that we're nearly in November, and in fact it will be November by the time our listener hears this, is what companies tend to do at the start of the year, as in the new year, and that is a kick-off meeting. In other words, when you get all your people together and you have a big meeting and you show figures on the board and all that kind of stuff. Now, because the three of us have been around a bit, we've had lots of kick-off meetings in our career, I think. I've hosted a few. I've made lots of mistakes, which I'm sure will come up in the purposes of this podcast. But what I thought would be great, really, would be just to knock around the topic of kick-off meetings. So let's start off with actually, first of all, what is a kick-off meeting? And I'm going to start with you, Jonathan. So what is a kick-off meeting?
Well, before I actually try and define it, Steve, I think I just wanted to apologise to our listeners whose financial year perhaps doesn't run January to December. And
that's a really good point, actually.
So, what's coming up might be Q3, Q4, could even be Q2. So I think that what we're talking about today applies to any organisation, but obviously the timing of it
absolutely
will look somewhat
thanks
different.
For the clarification there.
But no, that's fine. So, what is a kick-off meeting? Well, for me, I think it's an opportunity to inspire people. It's a time to bring people together, and obviously in recent times, COVID, and then perhaps some sort of slightly tougher for some companies economic situations has meant that there hasn't been as much travel, and I think so. It's a great chance to get people together. Sometimes people are meeting for the first time, and they may have been in the company for goodness 2 or 3 years, and I'm still hearing about that today. So great chance to get people together. And use it, as I say, as an opportunity to inspire. I think the other critical thing for me is that it's a great chance to get people aligned strategically as well as another excellent opportunity to talk about the strategy, talk about the way forward, and to share ideas around that. Especially for salespeople in these meetings, they may hear about the global strategy or the regional strategy. But for them to work out, how they broadly get aligned at a territorial level, is really important.
Sure.
So
I think what you're saying there is sorry, Jonathan. I think what you're saying there is a chance to get people together socially, but also from a business alignment point of view.
Yeah.
But I guess, before we even start thinking about a kick-off meeting and booking venues and spending what is potentially a significant amount of money, I guess we need to think about what the objective is and what's the purpose of it.
I think that's a really interesting question, Steve. If I reflect back on kick-off meetings, one that I either took part in or I started to arrange myself in my career, I'm not sure we ever really had that discussion, which is a huge failing.
Like, why are we here?
Yeah.
Why are we here? What do we want to achieve? How are we going to justify it so that we can have another one in terms of, it's always a big number on your budget. And what a great start to sit down before you start doing anything and going, what do we want to achieve from this? How do we want people to leave feeling? What do we want them to learn? How do we want things to go? And I think if we started there, what a great start.
And I think from my experience, companies often fail to do that, really. And I guess also, after we've had the meeting, how will we know if you've actually achieved that, really?
Yeah.
So planning, organising, thinking about the objective, thinking about, the strategic alignment of the business, so to speak, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Anything else you think that is a thing we need to think about before we even start arranging venues and rooms and all that stuff?
Yeah. So, so apart from those two things, which I think, for me will always be the purpose of a meeting like this, I think, and Pru mentioned the word, it's learn. I think it's a great opportunity to learn something. And, we can learn from colleagues, we can learn from, potentially even external speakers, external guests. I think there's a wonderful opportunity to learn as well. For me, those are the three critical things that, I always sought to try and achieve in, my kickoff meetings, and some of the best ones I went to, had those three elements. I came away hugely energized, inspired. I had clear view and understanding of where the business was heading, and could see a way to connect, my local business to that. And I'd learned something, and those were, for me, the three things that really made a great kickoff meeting.
Okay, interesting. Pru, is there anything that shouldn't be in the kickoff meeting?
There's lots that shouldn't be in a kick-off meeting, Steve.
Give me an example.
Do you know, we're calling it a kick-off meeting. So one of the things I don't think we should labour, but somehow we do, is history. I've attended some pretty grim so-called kick-off meetings, and we didn't kick anything off. All we did,
wow,
we really reviewed and looked at the same set of numbers, which were history presented in many different ways by a number of different people.
Right.
And I think it's one of the things that we can fall into that trap. We think that everybody wants to see the numbers. The numbers are the numbers. So I definitely think there's a place for them, but they shouldn't be the whole purpose.
So this is like when the head of finance comes and presents, 80 pages of spreadsheet with figures over the last 5 years, sliced and diced in different ways.
And loves to start with, I know this is very difficult to read.
That's a great one, actually. Yeah. And we're all sitting at the back, with binoculars on, trying to these tiny little font and trying to understand what these ratios mean and stuff. Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, the figures are important, of course. We're commercial businesses, aren't we? We're sales teams. But from my perspective, it's been and gone. We can't change it. We haven't got a time machine. Unless there's some things that we need to learn in terms of setting the strategy for the next year, Jonathan, then should we have a real deep dive into the history?
Well, what I've always tried to do in my kickoff meetings has always been, for me, the numbers will be important. Sorry, guys. As you know, I love the numbers. And
I know you do, yeah.
But for me, it's I would try to limit it to, maybe 1 hour, 1.5 hours max. That for me,
right,
would suffice. I think there's a lot that you can do.
That's a lot, actually.
Well, it might
Pru's
be.
rolling her eyes here when you said that.
Yes, I know she is. But they do have a part to play, and I think you're absolutely right, Steve.
Okay.
It's the extrapolation. We can look at those numbers; they can give us trends and insight, and actually connect looking forward. In that hour and a half, it wouldn't just be looking backwards; it would be looking forwards as well. Perhaps Pru will forgive me if I just clarify that slightly. There will always be numbers in my kickoff meetings. But yeah, we look back because it's, we can learn from it, absolutely. But yeah, we look forward too. And, we can talk about future targets and, future trends we've seen. And we can drill down if we wish. But I think there's a lot that shouldn't be in there. A deep dive for me is not the right time. It's not the right time to do that at a kickoff meeting. So maybe Pru and I can agree on that.
No, because it's been and gone, I guess, really. You can't. What are the top level trends? What are the key takeaways?
Yeah.
What are things we need to think about as part of planning for this year? But slicing and dicing a particular product over the last 10 years, that shouldn't be there, Pru, now.
No, I don't think it should unless there's a really important point to make. But yeah, you get product management will give you numbers one way, finance will give you numbers another way. And it all becomes a bit samey, really. I mean, I think the clue's in the word. It's a kick-off meeting. So I think we should think about what do we want to kick off.
Right. So let's start to think of things in terms of kick-off then. And you make a really good point, Jonathan. Not every company has a January financial year, but bear with me. Let's assume in this case that we do.
Yeah.
My birthday is the 4th of January. It's the same as your wife's, I think, Jonathan.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So my birthday present every year normally was a new sales target. Happy birthday, Steve. Here's your new number. Oh, by the way, it's bigger than last year's. Surprise, surprise. So what about the whole rolling out of target things, Pru? Is that something we should do at a kickoff meeting, or should that be a separate process?
I think it should be a separate process.
Why? I agree, but why? Yeah.
I have to say, most kickoff meetings that are run at the beginning of the year, salespeople often don't actually have their targets.
I've in businesses where they don't get them until May. Yeah.
And, if you start to make it all around the targets and you actually haven't agreed and delivered the targets and talked them through, you're already going to probably not achieve one of the things you wanted to do by bringing everybody together and getting them very motivated and ready to face whatever's on the horizon for them. So
that's a really good point, Jonathan. You're trying to motivate the team, and all of a sudden
Correct.
This year's numbers go up and they're 16% bigger than last year. That's going to be, everybody's going to walk out the room thinking, oh my gosh.
It shouldn't really be a surprise to anyone. If they've been aligned with and listened to some of the strategic presentations previously and in the previous year, they'll know what the expectations are moving forward. So you can never really say, and I know there are all sorts of exceptions to this, but for many salespeople, they can never say, I don't know my sales target. They take last year's plus the growth that's been identified previously to give them at least a guideline. So they should go into that kickoff meeting, have a reasonable appreciation of what it is. You're dead right, Steve. The numbers only ever go up. We'd be disappointed if they went down.
In my experience. Yeah, I guess so.
I'd be worried if my target went down.
Yeah, thank you, Pru. Great one. Absolutely.
What have you changed? Yeah. Your target's gone down, but your territory's gone down as well. It's halved overnight.
Yeah, I'd be worried.
Yeah.
I don't want to work for an organisation where that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back to a more fundamental point again. We've talked about what should be the objective, but who should organise it? We've all been sales directors and sales managers. Should we be the people that are organising it, or should be marketing? What do you think, Pru, on that one?
So ideally, it's not me.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes it depends on the size of your organisation, I think. We were talking earlier. I remember attending such meetings and couldn't understand why everybody made such a fuss about the organisation of it. However, the very first one that I had to organise, by the time we started the meeting, I just wanted to lie down in a dark room and let everybody else get on with it. It's exhausting.
It's a lot of work, isn't it? My shower in my hotel room isn't working. I don't eat prawns. Whatever. Yeah, all that kind of logistical stuff. I wouldn't know how to do that, Jonathan. Have you organised a kick-off meeting in your time?
No.
Jonathan?
No, not at all. And the reason is that I'm not very creative. So, I've always looked across my teams and looked for a creative person or normally persons, and maybe just put a little project team together. Maybe somebody from sales, somebody from marketing, somebody from product management, maybe somebody from service, even application support. I think there is, depending on the size of your organisation, there's an opportunity here to also, in terms of, what can we achieve? Well, we can bring different parts of our business closer together, and you can start that through the planning phase. And I must admit, some of the agendas I've seen that have been produced by others, I could never have dreamed of producing. They were great, engaging, really nicely balanced, a really good spread of topics. So, for me, it isn't something I know I'm not good at it. There are others a lot better than me, and behind it, depending on the size of the meeting, there is always somebody who's absolutely fabulous at doing the logistics, right? Somebody who really can dot the I's, cross the T's, manage the venue in detail, etc., etc. There's normally somebody who's really, really good at that should be involved.
Sure,
some
absolutely.
thoughts for you.
And some of our listeners and our customers are large organisations, some are smaller organisations. But when it comes to the decision, Pru, about doing it internally or externally, I guess if we do it internally, there's a cost saving potentially, as in, physically hosting it in our own building. What are your thoughts about whether it should be internal or external in terms of location?
I think ideally it should be external. I think one of the problems you'll bring a lot of people who are remotely based into the meeting. And the discipline of actually getting the agenda to run on time and people to be back in the room where they can, with all the distractions of being in your head office, are challenging.
Yeah.
And I think it's where possible. It really makes sense to have an external location.
Yeah, where's Dave? Oh, he's just popped over to see the finance team. He'll be back in 10 minutes. Yeah, they can't do that if they're offside, can they? Yeah.
I think I'd throw one more thing in though about that. That I think when you have a new facility or you're opening a new facility, actually that can be a really good time to hold a kick-off meeting, because it's a way of ensuring that everybody gets an opportunity to see that facility. And it might actually be part of our sales story. It may be part of the value we offer our customers. So I think for people to see it firsthand, really good. Now, of course, that could mean a hotel local. Yeah. But that I would put a hand up for in-house in that respect, running it internally. If you've got you're opening a brand new facility, for instance, albeit you're right, Steve.
I can see that,
there are
absolutely.
those distractions for sure, which you need to manage. Yeah.
So what about guests, as in our own internal guests? Let's have, you might have the big boss might come down, the CEO, somebody from marketing, somebody from finance, somebody from service, somebody from HR. And also, what about external guests, as in a guest speaker, perhaps? What are your thoughts on that, Pru, as to whether those things work or don't work?
I would love it on a kick-off meeting to have some surprise people appearing. I think.
Not even on the agenda.
Yeah, no. Just, if you've been in a business a while, you seem to get the same old faces that appear at those kind of meetings.
Yeah, sure.
So I think the more variety you can bring, and who are they? What are they going to talk about? I think that starts to build a really exciting kick-off meeting. Don't share too much ahead of time about not the usual suspects who are on the lineup.
Yeah.
But I think most people are hugely attentive to a voice they've not heard before. So if you want to get a good message over or take a completely different viewpoint, what a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And would you ban any people, Jonathan? Would there be people in the organisation you wouldn't have? No names, but in terms of functions or roles, would you?
No, I think what I would do though is just
You're
go
not
back
coming. I don't care.
to Pru's comments that for me, just in personal experience, I've used an external purchaser. Came in, gave a great presentation on the world of purchasing. Truly inspiring, actually, for most of the salespeople that listen to that, because they realise that actually the purchaser is human and actually has a lot in common, with their role. So that was a great one. I think other customers to talk about some leading edge science can always be, spectacularly good. And actually a great internal one, I'm absolutely standing up for the CFO here. I've found that most salespeople are actually, if you keep it light and you keep it appropriate, I think actually to give salespeople some training around, the fundamentals of business finance, how a balance sheet connects to a P&L and how it connects to a cash flow statement, is just also really powerful, because some of the conversations that some salespeople have, inevitably, will involve those things. So there's another idea of a great guest.
That's a really good idea. It's something I've done myself, actually, because in my experience, and including me, when I was, earlier in my career, I didn't know anything about the world of business, as in what is a balance sheet, what is a P&L, what does EBIT mean, all those kind of things.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Do you think that works, Pru, having all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's always character-based, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sure that we've all thought of CFOs who are really great in front of an audience, and perhaps some that you wouldn't necessarily.
No names.
Yeah. It's very much about making that judgment, isn't it? And I think if you are going to have people like that, the one thing is to give them really good guidelines, probably go through to get the level right, because you don't want it to misfire. So if you are bringing people in whose style you're not used to, is to really do that prep work to make sure that that it is going to keep to time, and it is going to be messages that add and don't detract or cause confusion.
And you said a very important word there, several words, keep to time. So we need a timekeeper, Jonathan, yeah?
We do. And I think it's
one of us if we're running the meeting.
No, definitely not me. And I have a tendency to overpack agendas. I don't do it deliberately. It's, I guess, my enthusiasm just gets.
We haven't noticed, Jonathan, honest.
You wait till the November meeting. You may get a surprise, right? I'm extra disciplined. Yeah, I think it's something I learnt, right, and something I've observed in kick-off meetings that I've been invited to attend. Some of my customers invited me to attend those meetings, and be careful about packing the agenda out. I think giving people time to socialise, talk to colleagues in other departments and groups that they've not seen for months, even, as we said at the beginning, possibly years, I think is actually really important. I think it's part of the glue. I think that actually brings a team together, that chance to socialise. So, of course, we're there to work, but we're also there to have some fun. And I think those personal relationships are always so powerful. So give people time to really, build those relationships and have those conversations. That would be a key input from me.
So you've just neatly took me into the next topic I wanted to look at, really, which is the social element. Almost like we planned it, Jonathan, yeah?
Yeah.
So,
before you do, Steve, could I just be really awkward and go backwards? I think there's one more thing in terms of in terms of speakers. I just love celebrating success, and I love success stories. And I think, being able to bring people in from across the team, who've achieved something out of the ordinary, who've truly innovated in some way, is another fantastic way of, keeping the meeting engaging, but also informative and help and inspiring. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Steve, but that was one I really did want to
No, that's fine. And I want to come back to that because I think it's a really important point, thinking about my own career, that I'd like to explore before we finish this. But just to go on to the social bit, Pru, because you make a really good point at the start, Jonathan. It's possibly 3 years since some companies have had a face-to-face kick-off meeting due to the pandemic. 3 years since the team have got together, seen their mates, seen their colleagues. There's going to be, obviously, pretty much taken, I think, some element of wanting to get the team together socially, having a chat over dinner. I've seen some really good examples of that, and I've seen some really bad ones where things have got perhaps out of control. So what are your thoughts about what's appropriate, what isn't appropriate within, obviously, the normal business guidelines, Pru? What would you think works and what doesn't work from a social element?
I think it's about providing a relaxed atmosphere for people. I think if you want people to interact with more than the people sat either side of them at perhaps a formal dinner, it's to provide an occasion where people can mix and move and have a level of informality. I don't think we go to a kick-off meeting for a high level of formality. So allow some kind of pre-eating engagement time. Team building activities are always fantastic, where people can work in cross-functional teams or even with their own team if they haven't seen each other. I think the best fun I've ever had at kick-off meetings is where there's been a slightly but not overly competitive element around some kind of team activity.
Okay.
And dinner's just about eating as opposed to some formal situation.
Right.
Most of us who are in a field-based role do plenty of eating out. That's not the purpose of what we do. But team building is great.
Okay. Any examples, Jonathan, of things you think work well in that area?
I just think of a few experiences again that I've had. I remember an escape room. I was very late to escape rooms, but I think it was one of the first I did. Absolutely loved it. And one of the reasons I loved it was
escape room?
Escape room. Everyone could participate. Yeah. And it was competitive as well. So there were several teams in several rooms, all had the same challenge, all had to escape within a certain time frame. And of course, there was a winner. Put people in the commercial world together, there's normally an element of competitiveness. So that worked really well. I've played some, what you might call some silly games, but they weren't. I remember a game, I remember doing something with spaghetti, string, glue, tape, something like that, trying to build a tower. That was entertaining, especially if you do it in teams.
That's the marshmallow challenge.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, that's it. I think Pru can probably describe that better than I, but I remember having a go at that.
Go on, Pru, tell us about the marshmallow challenge.
So the marshmallow challenge is to build as tall a tower as you can and balance a marshmallow on top. Cool. And you get 12 bits of spaghetti, a metre of string and a marshmallow.
That's it. Yeah.
I love it.
It's almost predictable if you put teams together in departments about exactly what's going to happen. Sales will always win, but they may not do it honestly.
I assume the spaghetti is not cooked.
It's uncooked spaghetti, but you can almost predict how it's going to go. It's highly competitive and costs almost nothing to do.
Yeah, I love it, yeah. I can think of some great examples of my own career of things we've done. Treasure hunts. I remember doing a treasure hunt once where we're driving around the Derbyshire trying to find locations and for some reason, we were given a map of Nottinghamshire, my team, so we didn't win, surprisingly.
Did you notice?
So that treasure hunts. Not until the end, actually. We couldn't work out where other places were on our map, but still. What else have we done? Building towers, as you say. I remember once doing karaoke in a Wolfman outfit, but that's a long story. We won't go there on that one. I guess there is, and perhaps we do need to say this, there is always a little bit of a concern, people getting together and alcohol. Is there anything we need to say there, apart from, I guess, purely just setting some rules and guidelines, Jonathan?
I think just be extremely sensible. Remember, you still represent your business and you still represent yourself. And I think particularly these days, be sensible. That would be, my sole piece of advice. I would not behave today like I perhaps once behaved 30 years or so ago, but times have changed, so inevitable, really. But be sensible.
And for the better.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I definitely see that when you get groups of salespeople together. It's very different now, in a much better way.
Absolutely.
I think there's a lot of peer pressure around what is and isn't okay. And I absolutely applaud it. It's so much better these days.
No, completely. Right, let's go back to the point you were making a minute ago, Jonathan, about having some kind of recognition of success. I've been to kick-off meetings. I've run kick-off meetings when there's been awards. We've had Salesperson of the Year, we've had, President's Awards, over dinner, that kind of thing. So do you think that kind of thing works, or is it best done in a different way?
Personally, absolutely love sales awards. I wouldn't say it's what drew me into sales. But once I realised that you could win an award and you could have that few minutes of fame on a stage in front of your colleagues, it was an incentive. There's no question. I know we're all driven by different things, but I've always really, really loved the sales awards. And I think as long as, at the outset, inverted commas, the rules are clear about where the sales awards will be made, or the awards for people in support and service roles too, of course. I think just great to have. And that's very personal view, but really like them. And and hey, I didn't always win an award. I would love to have done, but I have to say, it gave me great pleasure to see my colleagues, succeed. And the more of them that were successful, the better, because it just meant the whole organisation was successful. And nothing gave me more pleasure as a sales leader than shaking somebody's hand and giving them a little plaque or something. And I know it's worth a few pounds or a few dollars. But I still have in my office, well, actually, it's still in a cardboard box, I think, the very first sales award I was ever given. It was a gold clock with no gold on it, with my name spelt wrong on the back. No one spells Jonathan correctly, but I still have it. That's the point. And it's still, I still look at it and think, I remember when I won that. And it was an inspiration, and I love it, but personal view.
What are your thoughts, Pru?
I wish I could be really cool and say, I don't think they're great, but no, they are. Truthfully, they are. I think they're one of the most motivating things that happens. And I've seen a real demise in them, actually. Yeah. Jonathan and I had the pleasure of working for the same company, although not at the same time. And those sales awards at the kick-off meeting were so motivating. Yeah. And if you didn't go up to get an award, you walked away and thought, I'm going up next year.
Absolutely.
I'm not cool enough to say they don't matter. They really matter.
No, I agree.
You should do them well. And
that's a good point, yeah. Do them well. Even get somebody in. We talked about a guest speaker, perhaps having a minor celebrity, if the budget allows, might be a nice touch there, really. I've got all mine. I've got 2 President's Awards on my desk behind me in my home office, and I've got various bits of cut glass around the house as well for things that I've won. And I can't remember what I won them for, even what company I was working for at the time, but I know it was an award I won. And I think if you're a salesperson, you're naturally competitive, aren't you, really? Otherwise, perhaps you're not in the right job. So seeing your name in lights and getting a handshake from the MD or the minor celebrity, for me, it's motivational, definitely.
Yeah. And could I just add, don't forget your partners in these awards as well sometimes. Your channel partners. I think your top performing partners.
Oh, I thought you meant your wife or your
no, well, that's another topic,
your channel
right?
partner.
Okay. But your channel partners. Don't forget your top performing partners. I think most of us probably walks into the foyer of one of our partners, and what's one of the first things you see? The shelf or shelves in some cases, absolutely rammed with their sales awards. These things are important for a lot of people in selling. I fundamentally believe so. Another dimension.
And would you have the partners actually come to the kick-off meeting as part of the meeting as well? Or is that a different...
Why not? Why not? They're part of your sales organisation. There may be some highly confidential information you can't share, but probably not at a kick-off meeting. So absolutely, they're a critical part of your selling organisation. So why not invite them? What a great way to build that relationship even further, right? And really make them feel part of your business.
Love it. Jonathan Pru, it's been fascinating exploring the world of kick-off meetings, and hopefully for the listener there's some good ideas there. Let's have one last sort of gem from both of you, and I'll try and think of one as well. One thing that if you were sitting planning a kick-off meeting right now, one thing that you would say you must try and do, what would you say on that one, Pru?
I think when I was reflecting on it, I was just going to repeat what's already been said. That absolute clarity about if I was attending this meeting, what would I want them to leave having achieved, or how do I want them to feel, and actually build my agenda and what I do around that rather than getting out last year's agenda and just changing it a bit. That's what I would do.
Yeah, agreed. Jonathan, for you?
Yeah, well, when I reflect on the best kick-off meetings I've attended, I have to say, in the last few years, I've attended a few that, pre-COVID, that were better than anything I'd ever done. And they had one thing in common. They had a theme. And I really loved that theme. And with that theme came a little phrase, just a few words, which in itself was inspiring. I really, really love that. That's, again, look, it's just me. But I love a theme, something to build the meeting around. And I think coupled with, understanding what you want to get out of it, getting people aligned, learning, inspiring. Yeah, I think that's for me. That's a really good idea.
Love it, Jonathan. I think you kind of stole my idea in some respects, but what I was going to say is exactly that. Let's have a slogan or a motto, not some trivial, like boldly go or whatever, but something that we all can sort of relate to, that everybody leaves away with that sort of one phrase in their mind that kind of says, this is what we're doing this year, guys, And to make it fun, I think would be the last thing I would say. You want people to look back and say, you know what, we really enjoyed that meeting. Yes, we had some difficult discussions perhaps at times, but we really enjoyed it. I can't wait till this time next year.
And that's right. Yeah. And I think that's a great point you raised, Steve. People are really, really keen to go back, and they want to go back and they want to attend and contribute. That's, you've achieved what you set out to achieve then. Really good. Yeah, love that.
Great stuff. So, Pru, Jonathan, thanks again and for your thoughts and time today. We're going to be back again next month with another Luxury Choice Sales Skills and Knowledge podcast. However, don't forget, we do have the mid-month interview show now. So in 2 weeks' time, I'll be back with an interview with a guy called Luke Evans, who's a really interesting guy who has his own business called Headway, which is all about mental fitness and mental agility. Really interesting guy. So make sure you join that show in a couple of weeks' time. If you haven't subscribed to the show, then please do so. That way you won't miss an episode. And we'd love you to leave a review, because reviews help us in lots of mysterious ways. So if you use Apple or Spotify, it would be great if you could leave us a short review. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you again next time.